That's a question I ask. Okay, let's go back and let's look at Kushan, let's look at Devin, let's look at Michael Hall. And there was, the best of my knowledge, and we talked about this yesterday with Andrew, there was nothing in any of their backgrounds that showed anything like this.
Again, probably premature to say anything until I look at it, Mary Kay, but it's very typically a combination of things, whether it's
The Cleveland Browns are standing on the edge of a wild quarterback shakeup, and the whole football world is locked in, waiting to see what blows up next. Coach Kevin Stefanski keeps saying Dillon Gabriel is still his guy heading into this week's clash with Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, but everyone can see the storm forming behind him. The messages flashing in neon, loud and impossible to ignore. Last year's third-round pick has been exposed in front of the entire league. His core issues blasted wide open for everyone to judge. And right there on the bench, watching every messy moment, sits Shadur Sanders, the son of NFL legend Deion Sanders, a player many fans swear should have been steering this franchise from the moment he arrived. Let's keep it real about what's happening in Cleveland because it's messy out there. The Browns are stuck in a pit of straight mediocrity, dragging a miserable record of 2 wins and 7 losses, with any playoff dreams already gone before Thanksgiving even shows up. The offense looks drained under Dillon Gabriel's leadership, like a ride that's choking on fumes and barely rolling down the street. Fans aren't just irritated, they're heated to the max. The patience Stefanski keeps showing Gabriel is starting to feel less like support and more like refusing to admit a major mistake, and people are calling it out every week. Browns fans pack that stadium hoping to see something fresh, something that looks like real competition, and instead they keep getting slapped with the same stale, disappointing performance from a quarterback who just doesn't look prepared for this level of pressure. The path that led to this moment is almost as wild as where the Browns are headed next. Dillon Gabriel came into the league with low-key expectations as a third-round pick, but Cleveland still put their chips behind him, gave him reps all preseason, and eventually handed him the starting spot. The issue now is that Gabriel hasn't simply fallen short of expectations, he hasn't even come close, and people are starting to wonder how long the team can keep pretending everything is fine. He's fallen dramatically short of even the most basic standards for an NFL quarterback, and it's getting impossible to hide it anymore. We're not talking about missing complicated reads or failing on high-level plays. We're talking about simple, fundamental mistakes that make people wonder if he's truly ready for pro football. Bad choices, wild throws on basic routes, struggles reading defenses, and a lack of the confidence you need to command an NFL offense. It's all been on display. It's rough to watch, and Browns fans know bad quarterback play better than anyone, so they can spot it quick. What makes this whole situation even more frustrating for Cleveland supporters is knowing there's a legit option sitting right there on the sideline, and his name is Shedeur Sanders. His talent isn't a secret, and fans can't figure out why he's still watching from the bench. Here's a quarterback who dominated college ball, someone draft experts believe could have gone in the first round. He's got real NFL roots as the son of one of the greatest cornerbacks and one of the biggest personalities the league has ever experienced. Shadur dropped crazy stats at Colorado and showed calmness, precision, leadership, and all those priceless qualities teams dream about when searching for a franchise quarterback. Yet in one of the wildest draft slides anyone's seen in years, he fell all the way to the 5th round, where the Browns grabbed him with the 144th pick. From that moment on, Kevin Stefanski has acted like Sanders is some emergency-only option, the last name on the list, someone not even worth testing out, despite the obvious signs that the current plan is falling apart right in front of everyone. The timeline that brought us here feels like something out of a chaotic sitcom. Before preseason even started, Kenny Pickett, who was supposed to be in the quarterback competition, walked away from the team. That should have opened the door for Sanders to step up, take reps, and show what he could do in practice and preseason games. Instead, Stefanski stayed locked into his original plan, sticking with it no matter how messy things got. Then came week 5, when the Browns cut veteran Joe Flacco, the same guy who sparked life into the team last season. And that move had fans shaking their heads hard. The obvious play would have been to bump Shadur Sanders into the true backup spot and start mixing him into the plan. But no! Stefanski doubled down on Dillon Gabriel again, and now Sanders is technically next in line while still being kept at a distance from getting real snaps that actually matter. Browns fans aren't clueless. They know exactly what's going on. They're watching other teams around the league give their young quarterbacks real chances to grow, letting them learn on the field with actual pressure, real mistakes, and real progress. Meanwhile, they see their own team stuck in a season that's basically done, a season where the playoff dream has already vanished, and they're shouting nonstop that right now is the perfect time to see what Shadur Sanders can do in real action. The frustration has officially reached a breaking point, and this Sunday's home game against the Baltimore Ravens feels like it could be the moment everything blows wide open. Picture the scene this weekend. The Ravens rolling into town led by Lamar Jackson, one of the most electric quarterbacks alive, a former MVP who makes highlight plays look normal. The Browns are walking into their own stadium as massive underdogs, and the crowd is already set to be on edge from the first whistle. If Gabriel comes out and drops another slow, flat performance, if the offense keeps stalling out the same way it has for weeks, if the mistakes stack up again, the fans are going to let Kevin Stefanski hear every ounce of their anger. This won't be quiet frustration. This will be loud, sharp, and impossible to ignore. We're talking about the kind of heated environment teams usually face on the road, except this time, it'll be the home crowd firing off the noise. The calls for Shadur Sanders could start early, and they'll keep getting stronger with every 3 and out, every misread, every shaky throw, and every moment that makes it painfully clear a change isn't just wanted, it's needed. The wildest twist in this whole saga came from Jonathan Jones, the well-connected CBS sports insider who always knows what's really going down behind the scenes. Jones didn't dance around anything. He kept it crystal clear when talking about Shadur Sanders and his future with the Browns. He straight up said there's an extremely high chance, actually a 100% chance, that Shadur Sanders will get game action this season, but he didn't stop there. Jones went on to predict with 98% certainty that Sanders would even start a game before the season wraps up, then instantly corrected himself and said it's really 100%. His logic was simple, direct, and almost impossible for anyone to argue with. Just look at the schedule. Look at the record. The Browns are sitting at 2-7, completely out of the playoff picture, and this season is already done. So what sense does it make to keep rolling out a quarterback who isn't delivering when you've got an exciting young talent who needs to be evaluated before the team hits next year's draft and free agency decisions? And that leads to the uncomfortable truth that more people in Cleveland are starting to accept. Kevin Stefanski, the same head coach who once won Coach of the Year and was seen as the calm leader this messy franchise needed, is almost certainly coaching his final season with the Browns. After finishing 3-14 last year, which was a complete disaster by any standard, it's looking like the team is falling into the exact same pattern again this season. The offense has been flat. The quarterback situation has been mismanaged. The team feels lost, like it's missing direction, swagger, and identity. And owner Jimmy Haslam, a man who has never been known for giving unlimited patience to coaches or front office leaders, is definitely watching all of this unfold and getting ready to make some major decisions. A full organizational reset is starting to feel not just possible, but likely. Here's where things get seriously interesting for the Browns and their future. The team is lined up to have 2 first-round picks in the upcoming NFL draft, and that's the kind of treasure that can flip a whole franchise fast if it's handled right. But before Jimmy Haslam and the front office make any big moves with that draft capital, they need real info. Not guesses, not wishful thinking, real answers about what they've got in Shedeur Sanders. They need to know if he's a true franchise quarterback, someone they can build the whole squad around. Or maybe he's a steady starter who might not be elite, but can control games and let the defense and run game do the heavy lifting. Or is he just not built for the NFL level, meaning one of those first-round picks needs to go straight toward a new quarterback? These questions won't answer themselves, and the only way to find the truth is to actually put Sanders on the field and let him run real drives against real competition with real pressure. Even if the stakes are all about next season instead of this one, the reps still matter. And when you look around the league, the comparisons jump out quick. Plenty of teams dealing with shaky quarterback play eventually decide to see what their young developmental guys can do once the season slips away. Sometimes it works out great and reveals a hidden gem who ends up having a solid career. Other times it proves the backup should stay the backup and the team needs to restart at the position. But the experiment is always worth it because it gives hard evidence instead of daydreams and guesswork. That's the value. Clarity. Right now, the Browns are acting like they already know Shadur Sanders isn't the answer, even though they've never actually tested him. That's the kind of decision-making that makes fans shake their heads, because when you're already out of the playoff race, refusing to evaluate your young quarterback feels like pure organizational confusion. Let's lock in on Shedeur Sanders for a moment, because his journey is straight up captivating and adds a whole new twist to everything happening in Cleveland. Being the son of Deion Sanders, Coach Prime himself, comes with a level of pressure most young quarterbacks never even come close to experiencing. Shedeur grew up surrounded by pro football energy, learning the game from one of the sport's most iconic figures, and understanding from early on what it truly takes to compete at the highest level. At Jackson State and later Colorado, he stacked up strong statistical seasons, showing off the arm talent, the mobility, and the leadership qualities that NFL teams crave in a young quarterback. And these weren't empty numbers against soft competition. Colorado faced tough programs in a power conference, and Sanders regularly stepped up when the lights were bright, delivering in big moments and showing he could handle real pressure. But his pre-draft journey, it was one of the strangest storylines of the entire class. Early mock drafts had him going anywhere from late first round to early second, with scouts praising his quick release, the way he uses his eyes to move defenders, and his clean touchdown to interception ratio. Then suddenly something shifted, and nobody could figure out why. Concerns popped up about his arm strength, then questions about how he'd adapt to pro-style reads. Or maybe it was just the wild unpredictability that comes with draft season vibes. Whatever the reason, his stock started slipping, then sliding, as team after team passed on him in rounds 1, 2, 3, and 4. Finally, in the 5th round, the Browns grabbed him, potentially landing unbelievable value if he develops into even a solid, dependable starter in the league. Since stepping into Cleveland, Sanders has carried himself with next-level professionalism and maturity. He hasn't gone public with frustration over his lack of chances. He hasn't stirred up drama or asked for a trade. He shows up every day like a player preparing to start, even while sitting behind Gabriel on the depth chart, and everything coming out of the locker room says he's been a standout teammate with the right mentality. That type of attitude, discipline, and work ethic is exactly what teams hope to see from young quarterbacks trying to prove themselves, and it only makes the decision to keep him locked to the bench even more confusing. Fans see his patience, the team sees his dedication, and everyone's wondering why that hasn't been rewarded with real snaps. If Dillon Gabriel were playing strong football and stacking wins, nobody would have a reason to question Shedeur Sanders' spot on the bench. But with the way things look right now, you can bet Sanders' patience has to be getting tested, even if he's too professional to say anything out loud. The level of play Gabriel has put out this season has been rough by almost every standard you can measure a quarterback with. His completion percentage is sitting below what any team should accept from a starter. His yards per attempt show he's struggling to push the ball downfield or create anything explosive. And his touchdown to interception numbers scream risky decisions and throws into coverage that simply shouldn't be happening at this level. Even beyond the stats, the eye test hits just as hard. Gabriel looks hesitant in the pocket, uneasy when pressure comes, and slow to process what defenses are doing, which is deadly in a league built on disguises and fast decisions. He's missing open receivers, tossing passes behind his targets, and not recognizing when defenses are setting traps to bait him into turnovers. And these aren't small issues you fix with an extra week of practice. These are deep-level problems that suggest he's not ready to run an NFL offense right now. What makes all of this even tougher for Cleveland fans is that they've lived through this exact storyline way too many times. The Browns have a long, exhausting history of quarterback chaos, draft letdowns, and failed experiments under center. From Tim Couch to Brady Quinn, Brandon Wheaton, Johnny Manziel, Deshaun Kaiser, and a whole list of others, the Browns have rotated quarterbacks the way other teams rotate practice squad wideouts. There have been quick flashes of hope, like Baker Mayfield's rookie spark or what Deshaun Watson showed before injuries, and controversies changed everything. But most of the time, it's been a steady stream of frustration and missed expectations. And now, with another season slipping away, fans are looking at the field and thinking, here we go again, because it feels like the same old story, with a new name on the jersey. Watching Kevin Stefanski keep rolling with Dillon Gabriel, even with all the signs screaming that it's not working, feels like Cleveland is trapped in another rerun of its most painful history. And now, the matchup with Baltimore is turning into a major turning point, the kind of moment that can flip everything upside down in a single afternoon. The Ravens are a real playoff threat, with a high-powered offense led by Lamar Jackson, plus a defense that loves creating turnovers and throwing quarterbacks off rhythm. They're stepping into Cleveland expecting to handle business with ease, and honestly, who can blame them? The Browns haven't shown anything this season that proves they can go toe-to-toe with top-tier teams. So if Gabriel comes out shaky again, if the offense starts stacking 3-and-outs, if the scoreboard starts slipping away early, Stefanski will be staring down a huge decision right in front of a restless home crowd. Does he stay loyal to his struggling starter and take the boos head on? Or does he finally cave to the rising pressure and give Shadur Sanders the moment fans have been demanding for weeks? That's where things get even more interesting, because a lot of people think Stefanski's hesitation has nothing to do with Sanders' skill and everything to do with politics, optics, and straight-up job security. Think about it from Stefanski's angle for a second. If he benches Gabriel and Sanders comes in and instantly plays well, that opens up some pretty tough questions about why Sanders wasn't starting a long time ago. It makes Stefanski look like he either missed the talent right in front of him or he was too stubborn to admit the obvious, and neither of those looks is good for a coach fighting to keep his job. But on the flip side, if Sanders comes in and struggles, Stefanski gains some cover. He can say sticking with Gabriel made sense, and he can shift some of the blame off himself when it comes to the offense falling apart. It's a rough way to look at things, but the NFL is a business where coaches are constantly trying to protect their careers. And when your job is already hanging by a thread, every decision becomes a strategic move, not just a football choice. That's why this next game isn't just about Gabriel or Sanders. It's about a coach trying to survive, a fan base ready to explode, and a franchise desperate to find direction again. The impact of this quarterback drama reaches way past this season because the Browns are standing at a major crossroads as a franchise. They've got real draft capital, legit talent on defense, and enough cap space to make serious moves in the offseason. But before they can build any kind of smart long-term plan, they've got to figure out their quarterback situation for real. If Shedeur Sanders shows he can be a reliable starter, even if he's not a top-tier superstar, the Browns can use those first-round picks to fix other spots that desperately need help, like the offensive line, wide receiver, or depth on defense. They can also chase free agents who fit Sanders' style and build an offense that plays to his strengths while cutting down his weaknesses. But if they walk into the offseason still guessing about their quarterback, everything turns messy fast. Do they spend a high draft pick on a new quarterback? Do they go after a veteran on the open market? Do they run it back with Gabriel and hope he suddenly levels up? These choices can shape the next 5 to 10 years, and making them without knowing what Sanders can do would be straight up organizational confusion. Browns fans are hungry for any real reason to feel hopeful again. They've lived through decades of losing seasons, broken promises, and expectations that fall apart before they even get rolling. But they still show up, packing the stadium, rocking the colors, and riding with the team through the ups and the downs, even though it's mostly been the downs. The very least the organization can do is give them something fresh to look forward to, and Shadur Sanders is exactly that type of spark. He's young, skilled, connected to NFL royalty through his father, and completely untested at the pro level, which makes him intriguing in a way this fan base hasn't seen in a long time. Maybe he struggles and proves the Browns need to draft a quarterback high next year, and that's fine because at least they'd finally have answers. Or maybe, just maybe, Shadur Sanders is the answer the Browns have been chasing for years. Maybe he's the hidden gem who slipped to the 5th round because of overthinking during the draft process, only to rise and become a real franchise cornerstone. The only way to find out is to actually put him on the field, and every week Stefanski avoids doing that feels like another chance slipping away. Even the national media is picking up on this storyline now, which is turning the heat up even more on the Browns organization. NFL analysts and debate shows can't resist a quarterback controversy, especially when the name Sanders is attached. Debate tables are already arguing about whether Cleveland is mishandling a potential standout talent, and social media is lighting up with takes from fans and reporters who are convinced Stefanski is sticking to a plan that's falling apart while a better option sits untouched on the bench. This kind of national spotlight can push an organization into action fast, forcing ownership to address problems they might have preferred to deal with quietly behind closed doors. Pressure from the outside has a way of speeding up decisions on the inside, and that's exactly what's happening in Cleveland right now. Looking ahead at the rest of the season, the Browns have several matchups that look like uphill battles no matter who lines up at quarterback. That's not negativity. That's just being real about the talent gap between Cleveland and the teams left on their schedule. But those tough games are actually perfect chances to give Sanders real reps, real drives, and real experience before the offseason hits. There's nothing to lose now. Absolutely nothing. The playoffs are out of reach, the season is already off the rails, and continuing to roll with Gabriel only delays the switch that everyone knows is coming sooner or later. Playing Sanders at least gives the team valuable information, gives the coaches something to evaluate, and gives fans a fresh reason to tune in and root for something new. The story of Shadur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns is still unfolding, but the ending is starting to look more and more predictable as each week goes by. At some point, and it's coming fast, Kevin Stefanski won't have a choice anymore and will have to make the switch. Whether it happens this week against Baltimore, next week, or later down the stretch, Sanders is going to get his moment on that field. And when that moment hits, it's going to be one of the most highly anticipated quarterback debuts the Browns have seen in years. Not because Sanders was labeled a guaranteed superstar, but because the current situation has been so rough that fans are desperate to see anything different. The curiosity about what he can really do is intense, and it's reaching a level the franchise hasn't experienced in ages. This is Cleveland Browns football in its purest form. Big decisions, non-stop quarterback drama, frustrating performances, and a loyal fan base that deserves way better than the hand they keep getting dealt. The Shadur Sanders chapter is just the newest piece of this long-running saga, but maybe, just maybe, this chapter ends differently than the others. Maybe that 5th-round pick turns into one of the biggest steals of the entire draft. Maybe Coach Prime's son steps onto the field and starts carving out his own success story in the NFL. Maybe the Browns finally catch a real break at quarterback after decades of heartbreak and false starts. Or maybe Sanders struggles and Cleveland ends up right back at square one, trying to solve the same problem again in another offseason filled with questions. Either way, the answer is coming soon because the clock is ticking on Stefanski's future. The fans' patience is getting thin, and the moment Shadur Sanders steps onto that field is closing in fast. If you're a Browns fan reading this and wondering when the suffering ends, when the quarterback headaches fade, and when your team finally gets it right, trust me, you're not alone. Millions of football fans are watching every twist of this situation, waiting to see how it all plays out. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and drop a comment so you don't miss the next one. See you on the next one.